Yesterday, Theresa May seemed on the verge of negotiating a deal which would move Brexit talks forward to trade before the DUP made a furious intervention. However, DUP leader Arlene Foster refused to accept any terms which would see Northern Ireland leave the EU on different terms to the rest of the UK after Mrs May proposed aligning the state with the Republic. The PM has now cleared her schedule for crunch talks in Westminster, as well as with leaders in Brussels and on both sides of the Irish border. Next week, Mrs May will put forward her final offer to the EU before the December summit on Thursday and Friday. A deal will need to be in place with Dublin and Stormont by the end of this week, however, with Mrs May expected to return to Brussels on Friday, with little work expected over the weekend, especially given the DUP's refusal to carry out talks on Sundays due to their religious beliefs. The next 4 days will be crucial. Mrs May could return to Brussels as soon as tomorrow as the clock keeps ticking on Britain's Brexit countdown. Check back throughout the day for live updates below as Mrs May fights to save Brexit. Getty. Theresa May has 4 days to come to a Brexit agreement. 7 p.m. Ian Duncan Smith warns the EU to back off. Former Conservative Party leader Ian Duncan Smith has issued a major warning to Brussels and said the UK's message to the bloc should be straightforward. He told the BBC, "You need to change this process and to back off, otherwise we get on with other arrangements which are not going to be beneficial to you, and we would rather have the trade deal but not at any price. So our intention is to be treated as equals, not as supplicants, and therefore we've given every assurance under the sun to the Irish. Everybody knows that we're not going to end up with a hard border in Ireland. We are never going to do it because Ireland has always had a special place for the UK. They know that. We know that. This is a game being played out over power, and the answer at the end boils down to who will call the shots on this. And right now we have to say, not good enough. We simply cannot play this price because it makes any future trade arrangement not worth the paper it is written on. The reality for us though is to try and persuade the PM and the government that they have the support of the party and I think of the country at large. If they say to the EU, do you know what, we're not prepared to go down this road any longer. This is not working. We will not box ourselves in. 6:20 p.m. May speaks to Sinn Féin. Michelle O'Neill, the leader of Sinn Féin in the Northern Ireland Assembly, has revealed she has spoken to the Prime Minister as the Irish border dispute rages on. She tweeted phone call with Theresa May, reminded her that the DUP do not speak for the majority of citizens who voted on a cross-community basis to remain in the EU. Clearly the North has unique circumstances. The Good Friday Agreement is evidence of this. Special status within EU necessary. Getty. Ian Duncan Smith has warned the EU to back off or risk a no-deal scenario. 5:30 p.m. Juncker's diary could cause problems. European Commission Chief Jean-Claude Juncker has confirmed he is very confident of securing a deal, but could his absence at the end of the week upset the progress of Brexit talks? He said, "I will have a meeting with the PM in the course of this week. Maybe tomorrow, maybe the day after tomorrow, not on Friday and Saturday because I'm out of town, maybe on Sunday. We'll have a meeting and we had a good constructive meeting yesterday. I'm very confident that we'll do it." 5:20 p.m. Foster blames Irish government for Brexit text. Elaine Foster has accused the Irish government of blocking Theresa May from sharing information about plans for the Irish border with the DUP. She told Sky News, "There have been reasons given to us as to why we didn't receive the text until later on. One of those reasons apparently is because the Irish government wouldn't allow them to share that text, and in many ways I can understand that, but the important thing is once we had seen the text we knew that it would not fly for Northern Ireland, for Scotland, because once you start separating parts of the UK out then it has ramifications in other places as well." She added, "The Irish Prime Minister can be as unequivocal as he likes. We are also unequivocal in relation to these matters, and this is no surprise to anyone that I am a unionist and I want to see the retention of the union for political reasons but importantly for economic reasons as well. Our biggest market is with Great Britain. 72% of our goods that leave Belfast port go to Great Britain. Why in heaven's name would I cut off that market just to look at a smaller market in the Republic of Ireland? We want to see progress. We don't want to see a hard border. We want to have good relations with our next-door neighbours in the Republic of Ireland, but we are not going to cut ourselves off from the rest of the United Kingdom." 5 p.m. Arlene Foster reveals Brexit draft came as a big shock. DUP leader Arlene Foster said she did not see the text of a draft Brexit agreement until late on Monday morning, despite asking for it for 5 weeks. She told Sky News the DUP will not allow Northern Ireland to be cut off from the rest of the UK, reiterating her insistence that there cannot be separate Brexit deals for Northern Ireland or any of the devolved administrations. The DUP leader said we had asked for a text, on a number of occasions, to be told that there was no text. We spoke on Sunday evening, didn't have text. The text landed with us late Monday morning. That left us in a very difficult position. We had to look at the text. We had to understand what the ramifications of what the text was. And when we had a chance to do that, we realized that in no way could we sign up to that because, essentially, it was making a red line down the Irish Sea. Mrs. Foster claims she told Theresa May the DUP's 10 Westminster MPs would not back the government unless the text was changed. According to Ireland's Root News, 4:50 p.m. Will she stay or will she go? Downing Street are unable to confirm whether Theresa May will return to Brussels tomorrow to resume talks, as was widely reported yesterday. A spokesman for the Prime Minister has confirmed she is expected to speak with DUP leader Arlene Foster later today. The Telegraph's political correspondent Christopher Hope asks, is Home government now run from Belfast? Sky News' Arlene Foster said she was not given enough time to agree Brexit agreement text. 4:20 p.m. Scottish Conservatives back leader Davidson. Perhaps unsurprisingly, the Scottish Conservative group have released a statement to confirm their support for a UK-wide Brexit deal, as opposed to the notion of a separate deal for London and the devolved administrations which was put forward by Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon yesterday. In a statement, the group said, the Scottish Conservative group met today and unanimously agreed that we support the comments from Ruth Davidson MSP that the terms of any Brexit deal with the EU should be UK-wide. 4 p.m. Former Northern Ireland Secretary brands Brexit talks a car crash. Labour's Lord Hayne has hit out in the government and said yesterday's negotiations in Brussels show what a car crash Brexit talks have become. Lord Hayne, who served as the Northern Ireland Secretary under Tony Blair from 2005 to 2007, didn't mince his words as he asked why anyone was surprised at the DUP's refusal to accept proposals on a customs border. He said unionists were quite legitimately always going to insist that they could not be put in a status distinct from the rest of the UK. To maintain the Irish border as open as it has been, alignment would be needed on trade, customs, and regulation. The answer, Lord Hayne suggested, was to apply that alignment across the UK, then the problem is solved. Brexit Minister Lord Callanan immediately hit back, telling him, we are leaving the customs union. We are leaving the single market and Northern Ireland will be leaving them with us. 3:40 p.m. Irish ambassador to Britain believes we'll have a Brexit deal by the end of the week. The Irish ambassador to Britain has told Express.co.uk he believes the opportunity is there for the UK to strike a deal ahead of the EU summit on December 14. Adrian O'Neill warned the Prime Minister that if she fails to agree a deal by the end of the week, there may not be enough time to prepare for Phase 2 to begin in Brussels on the 14th. Mr. O'Neill said the government believes the time is still there and available for an agreement to be reached, and we are hoping that the time over the next few days will be used to effect. I think in reality that probably means by the end of this week in terms of the EU timescale and in terms of preparations for the European Council, who will go on to draft conclusions and all of that. If it goes beyond this weekend, we may well run out of time, so we're confident that the time and the opportunity is there and available if people wish to make use of it. 3:25 p.m. Labour says customs union membership should not be swept off the table after Sir Keir Starmer urged the government to reconsider staying in the customs union and the single market after Brexit. A party spokesman has moved to clarify Labour's position. The spokesman told Mirror journalist Don Bloom, we want a final deal that retains the benefit of the customs union and the single market. Options for achieving the benefits of the customs union should not be swept off the table. Labour is flexible as to whether the benefits of the single market are best retained by negotiating a new relationship with the single market or by a bespoke trade deal. Sir Keir Starmer wants the government to reconsider leaving the single market customs union. 3:15 p.m. Britain won't have any say on decisions taken in Brussels following David Davis' suggestion that the whole of Britain will align. With EU regulations, one EU official told The Guardian, the UK will not have any say on the decisions taken in Brussels and will basically implement them without having any influence over them. It makes the UK kind of a regulatory protectorate of Brussels. This reaction from the EU is unlikely to sit well with the pro-Brexit MPs. Being tied to decisions made in Brussels was a major factor in the vote to leave the bloc. 2:35 p.m. DUP want sensible Brexit. DUP Westminster leader Nigel Dodds said his party would work for as long as it's necessary until the issue was resolved because it is of such vital importance to the UK, he said. The Prime Minister has said that there will be no border in the Irish Sea. She has made it clear that the UK is leaving the European Union as a whole and that the territorial and economic integrity of the United Kingdom will be protected. We don't want to see the talks fail and we don't want to see an outcome where there is no deal. We want to see a sensible Brexit and we will work through on the basis of the clear red lines we have set down, which are, as we understand it, the red lines of the government as well. Kirby is taking over live reporting. 2:30 p.m. Strong words from Varadkar. Varadkar is pulling no punches in the deal, he said. The text was agreed by the negotiating teams, on both sides, yesterday morning and was confirmed to me in phone calls by President Juncker and President Tusk yesterday morning. Having asked us for many months now to start engaging in options about avoiding a hard border, they've now decided they don't want to have that conversation. 2:10 p.m. Dublin says ball in London's court. Leaders questions the Irish equivalent to PMQs is underway in Dublin. Taoiseach Leo Varadkar said, "We cannot move on to phase 2 until we have the assurances that we need, and indeed the assurances we have been promised for 18 months now, or even longer. So as it stands now, the ball is very much in London's court." He also urged Mrs May to listen to more than just the DUP. Mr Varadkar said, "We recognise that there isn't just one political party in NI. We will listen to, respect, and engage with all of the parties of Northern Ireland." 1:25 p.m. DUP warns Anglo-Irish relations suffering. Anglo-Irish relations have been set back by the Irish government's aggressive and anti-unionist approach in Brexit talks, the DUP has claimed. Nigel Dodds, the DUP's Westminster leader, warned relationships in Northern Ireland linked to devolution have also been damaged and said they will take a long time to repair. Mr Dodds added his party's approach of seeking to stand strong for the Union and Northern Ireland's place within it should come as no surprise. Monday, December 4, 2017, Theresa May is welcomed by European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker at the EC headquarters in Brussels. 1:02 p.m. Jacob Rees-Mogg thanks DUP. Jacob Rees-Mogg asks whether Downing Street would like to join him in thanking the DUP. He said the Unionist Party helped the Tories stick to their own red lines. He asked, "Does my right honourable friend share my gratitude to the DUP for helping the government stick to its own red lines?" 12:55 p.m. David Davis speak out. David Davis says in response to the urgent question, no PAET of the UK will be left in the customs union after Brexit. He said progress is being made and a deal is close. However, he suggests the Irish border is best dealt with in stage 2 of talks. 12:42 p.m. Urgent question begin. SMR Starmer begins his urgent question by exclaiming, "What an embarrassment. The DUP tail is now wagging the Tory dog. This is now deeply serious." He condemns Mrs May for not addressing Parliament himself. Follow it, live here. 12:40 p.m. May welcomes Spanish PM to Downing Street. Theresa May has given a Brexit update while welcoming Spanish Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy to Downing Street. Mrs May said our talks with the European Union have made a lot of progress. There are still a couple of issues we need to work on, but we'll be reconvening in Brussels later this week as we look ahead to the December European Council. But I know in everything we do we want to ensure particularly that we recognize the needs of Spanish citizens here in the UK, and UK citizens living in Spain. 12:28 p.m. Post-Cabinet updates. Prime Minister May is believed to have told her cabinet the UK and EU are very close to getting an agreement, but a small number of issues remain, and Downing Street has confirmed Mrs May and Ms Foster will talk over the phone later today. It follows Ms Foster's Refusal to travel to London for an in-person meeting. 12:15 p.m. Urgent question in House of Commons. Follow our coverage of the urgent question expected any minute in Parliament. It will be asked by Labour's shadow Brexit Secretary Sir Keir Starmer. An urgent question has also been tabled in Holyrood. 11:40 a.m. Arlene Foster refuses Theresa May meeting. The DUP do not believe a meeting bet when Ms. Foster and Mrs. May today would be constructive, a source said. Arlene will come in when they are close to agreeing something. There is such a level of work to be done at the moment. It is not at a stage where Arlene would be involved as leader. 11:30 a.m. Arlene Foster receives support from Gibraltar DUP leader. Arlene Foster has tweeted her gratitude to Gibraltar Chief Minister Fabian Picardo. Yesterday, the Gibraltar leader said the territory should receive special treatment after Brexit if Northern Ireland does. Ms. Foster tweeted, "Good to receive an encouraging and supportive phone call from Fabian Picardo and our friends in Gibraltar." Getty. Boris Johnson arriving at Downing Street ahead of this morning's cabinet meeting. 11:12 a.m. European Commission says, show is now in London. A spokesman for the European Commission said all eyes are now on London. They said, the show is now in London. We stand ready for talks with the UK at any time when London is ready. We will not discuss any texts that have not been agreed and which have not been seen by the College of Commissioners. 11:10 a.m. Government to face urgent question in Parliament. A minister from Theresa May's British government will be called to Parliament to face an urgent question. They will be asked to discuss Brexit at 12:30 p.m. after Labour Party was granted leave to ask an urgent question on the topic. The question will be asked by Labour's shadow Brexit Secretary Sir Keir Starmer. 10:35 a.m. Fighting talk on Twitter. Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon has called on Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn to get his act together on Brexit. She tweeted, "This could be the moment for opposition and soft Brexit Remain Tories to force a different, less damaging approach, keep the UK in the single market and customs union. But it needs Labour to get its act together. How about it at Jeremy Corbyn?" Former Labour leader Ed Miliband also took to Twitter to express concern about how negotiations were unfolding. He posted, "What an absolutely ludicrous, incompetent, absurd, make it up as you go along, couldn't run a piss up in a brewery bunch of jokers there are running the government at the most critical time in a generation for the country." 10:26 a.m. Trade warning from youth. The EU's trade chief has issued a warning to Theresa May in the wake of yesterday's horror show and ahead of renewed talks this week's. Cecilia Malmstrom said there will be no 100% total frictionless trade agreement between the UK and Brussels after Brexit. She said, "It can't be 100% total frictionless trade because they are not in the internal market." 10:23 a.m. DUP did not see draft text before EU meeting. A DUP source has told Sky News the part were not shown the text of the proposed deal before Mrs. May presented it to Dublin and Brussels. Confusion remains over how much the DUP knew about the proposed deal before it was approved by Downing Street. The exact wording of the proposal could have been adjusted at the last minute in a move which could have reduced the DUP's room for maneuver and infuriated Arlene Foster. 10:15 a.m. Tory MP Anna Soubry calls for any deal for Holyoke. Anna Soubry said any deal which replicates Northern Ireland's place in the single market should be extended across the UK. The Tory MP tweeted, "If regulatory alignment is good enough for Ireland, then it's good enough for the entire UK, so let's embrace it, keep UK together." Theresa May is scrambling to regain control of talks in Brussels, Dublin and Stormont. 10 a.m. Theresa May holds cabinet meeting. Theresa May is currently holding a cabinet meeting where ministers will attempt to make sense of yesterday's chaos. Discussions on how to win around the DUP will also be won around to Mrs. May's proposals. On his way into the meeting, Chancellor Philip Hammond said, "We are very confident we'll be able to move this forward. Discussions are going on right now." 9:30 a.m. Ruth Davidson calls for equal treatment across. Scottish Tory leader Ruth Davidson said Brexit must not result in the country being divided by different deals. She tweeted, "Regulatory alignment should be considered on a UK-wide basis to avoid a split in the UK." Tuesday, April 4, 2017. France has the highest score in the index at 32.59. 20 a.m. Theresa May faces leadership challenge. One Tory MP has warned that Theresa May faces a leadership challenge if she rolls over for Dublin and Brussels. They said she faces a leadership challenge this side of Christmas if she did not stand firm in the face of EU pressure. It comes after the leader of DUP's splinter party TUV said Mrs. May should be removed from office. Jim Allister said of yesterday's alignment proposals, "The thing is lunacy. Any so-called unionist prime minister who presided over this is a prime minister who should be removed from office. 9:15 a.m. Post-Brexit devotion would be anti-Welsh. The changes in devolution after Brexit would be anti-Welsh. A Labour MP has warned. Shadow Brexit minister Jenny Chapman said the return of powers from Brussels to the UK would actually harm Wales. However, this claim was dismissed by Tory MP David Jones, who said the Welsh Assembly would have not one iota less power.